It started with a bottle of wine. A sleek, dark glass bottle hand-delivered in a box tied with a burgundy ribbon. No note. Just a small sticker on the side with my name scribbled in neat cursive. Leah. That was it. I hadn't spoken to Margot. In weeks. She wasn't the type to send gifts out of love. Not to me, anyway. Her kindness always came with a little sting. So when that wine arrived the morning of my birthday, I felt it in my gut. Something was off. But Ethan, ever. The optimist brushed it off. "It's just wine," he said. "She's trying. Maybe this is her version of a peace offering." I didn't open it, didn't even touch it. But he poured himself a glass that night, then another. And by the next morning, he was on the bathroom floor, pale and trembling, unable to keep anything down. The ER doctors called it a toxic reaction, not alcohol poisoning, not foodborne. Something deeper, something man-made. That's when the questions started spinning in my head. Has this happened before? Why did the wine come without a note? And why did I feel like maybe it was never meant for Ethan at all? Ethan's reaction was almost immediate. That night, he said the wine tasted a little metallic, but still finished 2 glasses. We went to bed like any other night, except I couldn't sleep. My stomach was tight. Something about that bottle haunted me. I kept picturing Margot's face. The way she smiles when she's pretending not to be angry, I knew that it looked too well. Around 4 a.m., I heard Ethan stumble out of bed. Then I heard him retching, violently. It didn't stop. He was pale, cold to the touch, drenched in sweat. I tried to help him stand, but he collapsed. I called 911. At the hospital, they ran test after test. No food poisoning, no stomach virus. Eventually, one of the toxicology doctors pulled me aside and said, "This isn't random. It's synthetic. Something was in his system, something designed to make him sick." I asked if it could have been the wine. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. That was enough. I kept replaying it in my head. Why would Margot send wine? Why now? And why didn't she call after hearing Ethan was in the ICU? I checked my phone again. Nothing. No missed calls, no texts, not even a fake voicemail. And then it hit me. Ethan wasn't supposed to drink that wine. I was. Ethan's reaction was almost immediate. That night, he said the wine tasted a little metallic, but still drank 2 glasses. We went to bed like normal, except I couldn't sleep. Something about that bottle kept nagging me. I couldn't shake Margot's face from my mind. That cold, rehearsed smile. Around 4 a.m., I heard him in the bathroom. He was retching, hard, it wouldn't stop. He looked pale, cold, and drenched in sweat. I tried to help him up. He collapsed. I called 911. At the hospital, they ran every test. It wasn't food poisoning, not a virus. Then a doctor pulled me aside and said, "There's something synthetic in his system. This wasn't random." I asked about the wine. He didn't confirm it, but didn't deny it either. That was enough. And Margot? Nothing. No call, no message, not even a fake "hope he's okay" text. That's when it hit me. The wine wasn't for him. It was for me. I started thinking back, not just to the wine, but to the other times I'd felt sick for no clear reason. Last fall, right after Thanksgiving dinner at Margot's, I had stomach cramps so bad I thought I'd need surgery. A few months before that, I ended up in urgent care with blurred vision and muscle weakness. No diagnosis either time. At the time, I chalked it up to stress, or maybe bad luck. But now, with Ethan in a hospital bed and that bottle of wine sitting in our kitchen, untouched and unopened since that night, I couldn't ignore the pattern anymore. Margot didn't call, not once. When I finally texted her that Ethan was in the ICU, her response came 4 hours later. "That's terrible. Keep me updated." That was it. The next day, Rachel, Ethan's sister, showed up at the hospital. She was polite, careful, like someone walking through a room full of glass. And she asked me, "Did Ethan drink the wine?" Not how he is or what happened, just that. That's when I knew she knew something. and she was trying to figure out how much I knew too. The hospital called in a toxicology specialist. That's when the word poison stopped being a fear and started becoming a possibility. Not accidental, not environmental. This was deliberate. The wine was taken in as evidence. That's how Detective Alvarez got involved. He was calm, soft-spoken, and didn't talk like a cop. When he asked to speak with me, I expected suspicion. But he listened. Really listened. I told him about the wine, about Margot, about Rachel's question at the hospital. He didn't say much at first, just took notes, nodded slowly. Then I told him about the other times I'd been sick. The stomach cramps, the blurry vision, the fatigue that came and went like waves. All the times it happened after visiting Ethan's family, and how Ethan never got sick. Not once. Until now. He asked me one question that stuck with me. Why do you think someone would want to harm you? I didn't have an answer at first. I just said, it's not about hurting me. It's about control. Alvarez didn't blink. He just said, we'll need to look deeper. And just like that, it became real. I wasn't imagining things. Something was truly wrong. 2 days after the hospital took the wine, I went looking for the original packaging it came in, the ribboned box, the sticker with my name. I'd left it on the kitchen counter. But it was gone. Not moved. Gone. Ethan hadn't been home. He was still recovering. I hadn't had visitors. The door had been locked. That left one possibility I didn't want to say out loud. Someone came in. I checked the door's smart lock history. One entry stood out. A temporary access code had been used the morning after Ethan was admitted. A code Ethan had shared with Rachel months ago when she house sat during a trip. I told Alvarez. He didn't react much, just asked for the access logs and said he'd follow up. But I could tell it meant something. We hadn't reported the box as evidence. The wine, yes. The packaging? I hadn't thought to mention it. And now it was just missing. That's when I started wondering. Had Rachel come by to check on Ethan? Or to clean something up? That's also when I realized we needed cameras. Not to protect ourselves, but to finally prove we weren't imagining this. Detective Alvarez came back 3 days later. This time, he wasn't just taking notes and he was asking direct questions. He spoke to me, then to Ethan, and finally arranged separate interviews with both Margot and Rachel. He didn't share much, but what he did say stuck with me. Their stories didn't line up. Margot claimed she bought the wine weeks earlier, as a peace gesture, and said she left a handwritten card inside. But there was no card. There never was. Rachel, on the other hand, said she saw the bottle at Margot's house just days before it was delivered. When Alvarez asked her what label it had, she described it perfectly, right down to the sticker with my name on it. But that detail hadn't been public. Only I had seen that sticker. When Alvarez brought that up, Rachel stumbled. Said maybe she was confused or thinking of a different bottle, but the damage was done. She knew something she shouldn't have. Alvarez told me later that day, this isn't just suspicious anymore, it's coordinated. That was the moment everything shifted. It wasn't just a bad feeling anymore. It was a case. It happened by accident. I was leaving Ethan's hospital room to grab coffee. As I walked past the visitor's lounge, I heard voices. Low, tense. It was Margot and Rachel. I froze. I wasn't eavesdropping on purpose. But when I heard my name, I couldn't move. Margot's voice was sharp. You said she wasn't going to drink it? Rachel whispered back. How was I supposed to know? Ethan would? There was a long pause. Then Margot said, you should have swapped it back. Now look at what we're dealing with. I stood there, heart pounding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then Margot added something that made my stomach drop. She's always been too nosy, always digging. This is what happens when you don't learn to mind your place. Rachel didn't say anything after that. Just silence. I backed away slowly, trying not to make a sound. My hands were shaking. I texted Alvarez immediately. I just heard them. Margot and Rachel. They're talking about wine. They're panicking. That message changed everything. Alvarez responded in seconds. Don't confront them. Just stay with Ethan. We've got enough to move forward. Alvarez acted fast. Within 24 hours, a search warrant was executed for Rachel's car. Hidden under the trunk liner was a second bottle of wine, nearly identical to the one Ethan drank from. Same ribbon, same sticker with my name. This one was unopened. The lab confirmed it contained the same compound found in Ethan's blood. A synthetic toxin, slow-acting, odorless, designed to mimic flu symptoms. Not easy to detect unless you know what you're looking for. That discovery gave Alvarez everything he needed. Rachel was arrested first. It was quiet. No scene. She didn't resist. Margot, on the other hand, went into full denial mode. Claimed the bottles were planted, said she was being framed by a vindictive daughter-in-law. But the paper trail didn't lie. Security footage from a boutique wine shop showed Margot purchasing 3 of the same bottles. 1 week before, my birthday. She paid in cash, but the store kept surveillance and copies of customer records. Her handwriting was on the order slip for the name labels. That was the final nail. The case wasn't just circumstantial anymore. It was solid. And it was headed straight to court. The trial didn't drag on. Margot's defense tried to spin it. Said the wine was just a joke. That I had misunderstood her intentions. That Rachel wasn't in her right mind. But the evidence was too specific. Too deliberate. The toxicologist testified that the compound used was not only dangerous but required knowledge to dose properly. It wasn't something you'd stumble on in a cleaning cabinet. It was engineered. The prosecution argued that the motive was layered. Resentment, control, even jealousy. Margot had taken out a life insurance policy on Ethan years ago, listing herself as a secondary beneficiary. But more than money, it was about power. She couldn't stand that I wouldn't bend to her rules, that Ethan had started setting boundaries. Rachel took a deal. She admitted to delivering the wine, claimed she was manipulated, and that Margot convinced her it was harmless. She got a suspended sentence and mandatory psychiatric treatment. Margot, though? 5 years. Not for attempted murder, but for felony poisoning and conspiracy. It wasn't a long sentence, but it was enough to strip her mask away in public. Everyone finally saw her for who she really was. After the sentencing, we tried to move on, but closure doesn't come just because a verdict is read. The weight of everything didn't lift. It shifted. One night, while clearing out old boxes, Ethan found something wedged behind the bookshelf in our home office. A small leather journal. It wasn't mine. It wasn't his. It was Margot's. We hadn't seen it before. It must have been planted. During one of her visits, inside were pages of handwritten notes, meal plans, health logs, dates, all centered around me. At first glance, it looked like a concern, but the language was clinical, cold, like I was an experiment. There were entries like, gave her mushroom risotto, slight fatigue the next day, reduce dosage, or tried valerian extract in tea. No reaction. It wasn't just unsettling. It was calculated. We handed it over to Alvarez. He said it wouldn't change the sentence, but it confirmed everything. It proved intent. It proved this had been going on longer than we thought. Ethan read through the entire journal. Then he burned it in the fireplace without saying a word. Some things don't need to be archived. The weeks after the trial were strange, quiet, but not peaceful. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, convinced someone was in the house. I double-checked every lock, every window, even though I knew Margot was behind bars. Ethan took it hard. Not just the betrayal, but the guilt. He kept replaying everything, the things he ignored, the times he defended them. He apologized, over and over, and I kept telling him it wasn't his fault. But some damage just lingers. We needed out. Not just from the house, from the city, the energy, the memories. So we packed up and moved to Asheville. A small rental with mountain views, fresh air, and no ghosts from the past. It didn't fix everything, but the distance helped. We cut contact with Rachel, even after her release. There was no confrontation, No dramatic send-off. Just space, silence, and a slow reclaiming of our lives. For the first time in years, we started laughing again, really laughing. It felt foreign at first, like wearing shoes that didn't quite fit. But eventually, it started to feel like ours. A few months after settling into Asheville, I found out I was pregnant. It hit me harder than I expected. Not with fear, but with a kind of stillness. Like the world paused just long enough for me to breathe. Really breathe. I told Ethan on IG's site to write a walk through the park. He didn't say anything at first, just smiled and kept holding my hand a little tighter. We didn't shout it from the rooftops. We didn't even tell many people at first. It felt like a secret worth protecting. Like something pure that didn't need to be shared with the past. That winter, we started writing letters to our future daughter. Not advice, not rules, just stories about who we are, what we went through, how we chose each other, again and again, even when things got hard. I didn't want her growing up in fear or suspicion. I wanted her to know that pain doesn't get to define you, what you do after it does. Those letters became a ritual, a reminder that survival is one thing, but building a life, that's where the real healing happens. I used to think closure came with answers, that once you knew who did what and why, the hurt would stop. But that's not how it works. Sometimes the pain lingers even after the truth is out. And sometimes the healing doesn't come from justice, but from choosing to walk away. I'll never understand how Margot justified what she did. I'm not sure I want to. Some minds aren't meant to be unpacked. What I do know is this. Survival is quiet. It's not a headline or a dramatic confrontation. It's in the small choices. What you carry, what you leave behind, who you decide to be after the storm passes. Ethan and I live differently now. Slower, softer, more honest with each other. We don't try to make broken things work just because they're familiar. And as our daughter grows, we're teaching her something we had to learn the hard way. That love without respect isn't love. That peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's what you protect once you found it. This story didn't end in fire. It ended in light. And that, to me, feels like enough.